Hey there, YouTube. I wanted to talk about a blog I started and what I learned along the way. So, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I've been dealing with arthritis since my early 30s because of biomechanical issues I found out. And along the way, I have actually been doing a lot of reading about what it is that can help you regenerate your cartilage. Now, a lot of medical sites will tell you that it's not possible, but there's actually X-ray and MRI evidence of this happening in small pockets of research. So I started really reading into this and trying to find any kind of nutritional intervention or stem cells or regenerative therapy of any kind that would help. And along the way, I did stumble across a couple pharmaceutical drugs along the clinical trial pathways, and I was rather stunned that I had not heard about any of this stuff on the internet. It's almost like it's just not interesting. Like, you can look at orthopedics blogs that specialize in the industry, and rarely will you ever see a mention of any of this stuff. It's always news about sort of the palliative therapies. So I got to thinking, given that I'm finding evidence of therapies that actually fix the underlying disease, why don't I start a website that's just dedicated to news on these sorts of things? And I sat on that idea for about a whole year. It's like, I'm a computer programmer for a living. I make lots and lots of money doing it. Being a blogger does not make much money unless you're super famous. And writing is not my forte. It's not my specialization. I don't know about SEO. I don't know about self-promotion. So I sat on it for a year. But just this year, with the operation I had keeping me homebound, and I got really bored, and I said I need a project. So I started the Regenerative Times website, and in the process, I learned quite a bit about the media and the human beings, and a lot of it's unfortunately very negative. So the first problem I had is I decided to try to take clinical trials and research papers and things like that and boil them down into an English readable format. So I would have to go in and understand the underlying science in fields that I'm not aware of, right? So per article, like finding, like say an article about a disease, a therapy that uses a virus with a DNA changing vector attached to it to correct a genetic defect in somebody that causes them to have like a weird disease. I had to go learn about that weird disease before even writing about it because I didn't want to mislead anyone, right? So I was finding that there was just so much to know. It's crazy about medical technology and biology and things like that it would take me hours to write each article. Meanwhile, all the blogs that are talking about stem cell therapies and growth factors and all the stuff that I'm talking about, and they're not doing exclusively, what they're doing is they're just basically copying and pasting press releases with small edits. So here I am spending the equivalent time of a part-time job, trying to present this in a much better fashion that's more readable by your average person that needs to hear it. And I'm competing against these blogs that probably spend 100th of the time getting an article out. So that was one of my first problems. The second problem is, given that I've been dealing with chronic disease almost all my life, and have found a lot of effective means to remediate those, I thought, man, I wish I would have known about this stuff, so maybe there's some other people that are thinking the same way, like maybe they want to hear about these things. And I started posting on Reddit and subs that are devoted to people who have one illness or another. And so the articles that I would write where I really understood the source material very well, and they had found some kind of weird gene therapy or dietary intervention, I thought this would be the perfect thing to maybe inspire some hope in these people. And what I noticed is that I get mostly a negative response from these folks because they think that I'm spamming, or I was even accused of carb shaming. I was accused of re-traumatizing somebody who had HIV because I used the word "you folks." There's all sorts of really weird opposition to the articles that I was posting, which are, again, supported by clinical trials, research papers, things like that. The origin of all the information I have is mostly at universities and things like that. So I got very discouraged by that whole scene, and that, you know, if I want to reach out to people that are suffering of a disease, I'm going to have a mostly negative response and be accused of God knows what. So that kind of crushed my soul for a little bit. Yeah, I was, and I'm still getting over that butthurt of, you know, the fact that these people don't want to these communities don't exactly want to hear things like this. And even my own mother, who has several autoimmune issues, has told me that if I were to post something like that in one of the groups that she's in, I would be viewed in a negative light, especially if I had brought up the fact that dietary change could affect a disease in a positive way. So, you know, at this point, I'm not exactly sure how I can get the word out to the people that need to hear stuff like this. Yeah. Another thing that I noticed is I've written a couple articles that were sort of more like editorials to just kind of mix up the, you know, clinical report about this, clinical report about that, and inject maybe a little bit of humor while still kind of writing in a very, I guess, proper tone, because I'm usually not one to hold back, but I try to, you know, get a point across. Like, I wrote an article about the Impossible Burger, and how if the soy is extracted one way, then it's actually includes a clinically active dose of a estrogen booster used on postmenopausal women. That was my most popular article that I had written. I had gotten 2,000 hits, and that post went wild. Now, posts about children who have rare diseases that would cause them to die hours after birth getting cured in early trials, people don't look at those. I'd probably get maybe 10 hits on that. And other things where, you know, I'm trying to reach a large audience that has a disease. People weren't really reading those articles. It was just whenever my editorials would be the most shared and liked, and I would get the most feedback for those. So I was just really discouraged by the fact that, hey, here's this blog. It has life-saving information, hope-giving information, and people are just reading the editorials, and it's just the whole thing has been very discouraging. So at this point in time, I'm going to be essentially copy and pasting like everyone else, and aggregating a lot of information about therapies that cure the underlying disease. I'm going to give that about another 3 months and see if I can build traffic to a point where, you know, I might actually make money doing it. And if that's not going to work out, I'm going to stop doing that and close the site down. But given the success of the editorials, I was thinking of just starting a website dedicated to those, where all I do is write editorials that are, you know, supported by science as much as possible, but non-apologetic, sort of not restricting myself and just saying what's on my mind, because I believe that a lot of modern diseases are caused by dietary and environmental factors, and somebody needs to be talking about this. There are some voices out there, but the more voices, the better. So, in addition to launching this blog, which is like, you know, the Regenerative Times blog, which is kind of up in the air, I'm launching another blog, and I haven't exactly came up with a name for it, but at this point in time, I'm trying to find people who are interested in writing for it. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later, and we'll go from there. So yeah, in summary, writing a blog about the future of medicine that will help people was not received as well as I thought it would be, and it's crushed my soul, and I'm trying to find inspiration to continue. And in the meantime, I'm starting a blog where I say exactly what I think. Yeah. So that's it for now. I'm still healing my legs, so I'll be stuck at home, not doing any electric bike stuff. Sorry guys, I know a lot of you tuned into me to see really cool e-bike stuff, but I can't do it at this time. But there will be some cool stuff along the way anyway if you hang in there. Alrighty, well, thanks for listening. Talk to you later.